In a video entitled Why Democratic Socialism Doesn't Work, Steven Crowder starts out by saying the following.
Comparing democratic socialism to traditional socialism, or God forbid communism, is fear-mongering, it's inaccurate, it's actually pretty reasonable.
He then plays a clip of Bernie Sanders defining democratic socialism and says the following.
Okay, this is pivotal because there's a myth going around that democratic socialism is inherently different from traditional socialism.
Crowder seems to be implying here that Bernie Sanders basically supports plain vanilla socialism. He then goes on to explain the drawbacks and follies of socialism, but I would argue he's attacking a straw man here, because when you look at the actual policies that Bernie Sanders is calling for, it's pretty clear that he's mislabeling himself as a democratic socialist, when what he really supports is social democracy. It may seem like a tedious distinction, but these are very different systems of governance. It's important to define a few terms here, because when it comes to discussing different forms of government, a key problem I see is that many people on all sides of the debate are simply confused or ignorant about the terminology. And this leads to people talking past one another, making ridiculous comparisons, and misapplying these terms to countries that have completely different forms of government. So in the interest of avoiding this kind of confusion, let's define democratic socialism. As Wikipedia writes, quote, "Democratic socialism is defined as having a socialist economy in which the means of production are socially and collectively owned or controlled, alongside a politically democratic system of government," end quote, as opposed to capitalism where the means of production are privately owned. The other term to define is social democracy. To again quote Wikipedia, quote, "Social democracy is a political, social, and economic ideology that supports economic and social interventions to promote social justice within the framework of a liberal democratic polity and capitalist economy." Modern social democracy is characterized by a commitment to policies aimed at curbing inequality, oppression of underprivileged groups, and poverty, including support for universally accessible public services like care for the elderly, childcare, education, healthcare, and workers' compensation, end quote. Or, as they might define it over on Fox News, the love child of Mao Zedong and Joseph Stalin. As we can see, these systems of governance are completely at odds with one another. One rejects capitalism while the other preserves it. Wikipedia draws the following distinction between the two systems. Quote, "Democratic socialism is distinguished from social democracy on the basis that democratic socialists are committed to systematic transformation of the economy from capitalism to socialism, whereas social democracy is supportive of reforms to capitalism," end quote. Now that we understand the terminology, let's take a look at a clip from one of the Democratic debates and compare Bernie Sanders' definition of democratic socialism against the definition of social democracy.
And what democratic socialism is about is saying that it is immoral and wrong that the top 1/10 of 1% in this country own almost 90%, own almost as much wealth as the bottom 90%. That it is wrong today in a rigged economy that 57% of all new income is going to the top 1%. That when you look around the world, you see every other major country providing health care to all people as a right, except the United States. You see every other major country saying to moms that when you have a baby, we're not going to separate you from your newborn baby because we are going to have medical and family paid leave like every other country on earth. Those are some of the principles that I believe in, and I think we should look to countries like Denmark, like Sweden, and Norway, and learn from what they have accomplished for their working people.
And if you X out of all the porn tabs you have open, you can go to his campaign website and look at where he stands on all the other issues. And it's clear that almost line by line, he supports social democracy. When during the campaign, or where on his website, did he say that the means of production should be collectively owned, or that capitalism should be abolished? It must be in the same non-existent section where he called for a 90% tax rate, another right-wing myth about Bernie. To equate what he is calling for with socialism, and to label his own views as democratic socialism is a mistake. Or who knows, it could be the case that deep down he truly does support collectivizing the means of production and eliminating capitalism. Maybe he even thinks that we should eat the rich. If we start with Chris Christie, we can solve world hunger overnight. If Bernie truly advocates good old-fashioned, full-on socialism, we should be opposed to that, because I don't think it's a good system. But everything he said during the campaign makes absolutely clear that this is not what he supports. In the countries that he points to as role models for the United States, countries like Norway, Denmark, and Sweden are not staunch socialist nations. They have mixed economies, which feature a blend of capitalist and socialist principles. As Encyclopedia Britannica writes, quote, "A mixed economy in economics is a market system of resource allocation, commerce, and trade in which free markets coexist with government intervention. A mixed economy may emerge when a government intervenes to disrupt free markets by introducing state-owned enterprises, such as public health or education systems, regulations, subsidies, tariffs, and tax policies. A combination of free market principles of private contracting and socialist principles of state ownership or planning is common to all mixed economies." End quote. You know which other nation has a mixed economy? The United States. Our government interferes with and regulates everything from trade, business, education, healthcare, and agriculture to manufacturing. The difference between the United States and these European countries is basically a matter of degree. The US government already plays a substantial role in healthcare. What people like Bernie Sanders are saying is basically, let's do more of what we're already doing and let's provide universal healthcare through our tax dollars. Same with education. K-12 education in the United States is funded through our tax dollars. In these European nations, they provide universal college education in the same way. So again, moving in this direction would just be a continuation of a trend that already exists in the United States. I'm on Patreon. There's a link in the description if you'd like to support my content. I would really appreciate it. There's also social media links in there if you want to follow me there. I'm trying to build up some of those followings. I would really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe for more videos if you haven't already. Hit the bell, hit the like button, post a fucking comments. All that fun stuff that's standard on YouTube. You know the fucking drill. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this.